Welcome to Central News, I'm Amy Forrest. The Bay of Plenty Regional Council is seeking public feedback on where sensitive areas are in an oil spill for their two-tier oil spill plan. The objectives of the plan are to prevent further pollution from a marine oil spill and to contain and clean up a marine oil spill in a manner that does not cause further damage to the marine environment or any unreasonable danger to human life or cause an unreasonable risk of injury to any person. The most significant proposed changes to the plan are the inclusion of a number of new sensitive sites which were identified during the Tier 3 response to the Rena incident. Regional On-Scene Commander Gregory Meikle says that they want to make sure they have these sensitive sites identified correctly and would value the community's input.
So what we really are looking for is, do we have the information in these sensitive sites correct? Do we have the right breeding grounds for dotterels? Do we have all the mangrove areas covered? And the other thing that we're looking for is, how does the community want to be contacted in a Tier 2 response? Do we do it through the radio network? Do we do it through social media and Facebook? Do we do it through a residents association? What's going to be best for the public to receive that information?
A number of truck crashes in the Western Bay of Plenty are caused by the inability of truck drivers to see other motorists when merging, says Senior Sergeant Ian Campion. The region's road policing manager says a number of crashes in the region occur at the close of merging lanes on highways where cars attempt to overtake trucks. He says car drivers need to be aware often when they are overtaking a truck, particularly on the left where there are two lanes. There are areas where they are unsighted by the driver. The comments came as police launch a joint New Zealand and Australian campaign, Operation Austrans, aimed at reducing the number of people killed in truck accidents. Research into truck crashes shows around 67% of the people killed are other road users involved rather than truck drivers. Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, your Friday will be fine, but we'll start off with the day with a morning frost, a high of 15 and a low of 3. And Tauranga, you will also start the day off with a morning frost and light winds, becoming fine, a high of 15 and a low of 8. Just ahead, Jacqueline Raworth talks agriculture at the Field Days. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. The 45th Annual Field Days kicks off next month. As a partner of Field Days, the University of Waikato have a huge presence at this event. So we met up with Jacqueline Raworth to find out about agricultural careers. So what presence will you have at the Field Days this year?
The University of Waikato is a major sponsor of the Field Days, so we believe in the importance of everybody getting together and talking, and of course showcasing excellent research and excellent students. So we are right there in the main building with a large stand showing all sorts of exciting opportunities for research and education.
And what is your take on the Field Days theme this year, getting down to business in the global economy?
The global economy is absolutely vital for New Zealand. We have only 4.6 million people and we have enough food on a protein basis to feed about 45 million. And we also have the techniques and knowledge to help others do a more efficient, sustainable job for food production. So unless we go global, we're sort of doomed. But going global isn't as easy as people like to say or imply, and that's a lot of our research now.
So how do the exchange of ideas at the Field Days help the industry?
It's the point about innovation, and a huge amount of innovation comes from existing staff and a huge amount, another 50%, from customers. And so our customers could be considered to be the students or the employers, or they could be the people who want research done with us. And so when they say, or a farmer says, for instance, you know, what would be really good is if I had a better system for milking the cows or understanding the information that I'm getting from my new exciting systems, then we can start helping, because we can think, actually, there is a better way to do that. And then, of course, we can consider whether it's got application overseas as well. So it's pretty exciting.
So it's all about the social networking. So can you tell me a little bit about the international work that agricultural researchers get up to?
There's a huge amount in terms of the number of countries that we've worked with or sent students to or attracted students from. And in agribusiness, we have students at the moment from quite a lot of Asia and indeed South America that are wanting to come and find out more about sustainable, efficient production systems. And are thinking, what can they do that we're doing back home to make it better? But of particular interest this year, the Going Global theme. Some of my senior students have been looking at different companies and what their strategies have been to expand overseas. And that means we've got ideas about where you can make a difference, what pitfalls to watch out for, and the types of things that have actually worked. So Alana Scott and Thomas McDonald and Stephanie Wilson and Steve Law, for instance, these senior students will actually be on our site at different times of the week, talking not only about what they've done to work with industry, but also how new entrants, people who are thinking what they might do with their careers, could make a difference by coming and doing likewise.
And what economic benefits does the field days bring to the agricultural industry?
That is a fascinating question because it's so difficult to tell because the ripples spread outwards from the field days, and there are people who are thinking, if I come to field days, I can make my decision about the tractor or a new computing system, or look at the new fertilisers, seeds, whatever, discuss what the banks are doing, let's look at the milk company, all those sorts of things. And some of them will close deals at the field days, and some of them will go home and ponder for a while. So it's really just the nexus, and remember the exchange of ideas as well, so they might come to fruition in 8 years' time because somebody suddenly thought, actually, that would be a good thing on a motorbike. So you can't tell. We can make comments about how many people came, and we can say what interest in studies there were and what might come to University of Waikato or Lincoln or Massey. And we can also say how many deals were actually done, but the real test will be in 5-10 years' time.
So it's all about planting the seed. So can you also tell me about some of the careers that Waikato University students have gained in this industry?
In agribusiness, because it's a new program, it's quite challenging to say what they're actually doing, but for their senior students, we provide a lot of opportunities for them to meet with industry. And of course, because there are so very few of the agriculturally literate students around, industry is very interested. You know that some of the big companies like Ravensdown Balance, Dairy New Zealand, Beef and Lamb, they actually have scholarships to try and encourage people into agriculture so that they're then exposed to all the wonderful, exciting careers, the rewarding careers that they might have in the future. So our students now are working with fertiliser companies in terms, they haven't quite graduated, but they're already people are saying, when you've graduated, come and talk to me. And we have various milk companies and the fertiliser companies and cooperatives and privates saying, oh, that's a bright student. I'm just going to keep my eye on that one. If you, just let me know when it's finished.
And how does the University of Waikato help senior students to segue into employment?
It's providing opportunities, and it's saying, guys, and that includes the gals, of course, there's an after function, you know, like an after-school function, and I just reckon if you turn up looking professional, I might be able to introduce you to a few people, and there's an increasing bunch of those people, the students, positioning themselves. And I took, for instance, the senior class to the Awatiri Lunch Club on Monday, and I've had emails from the people at that lunch club. There were 100 women, and of course their employees and mothers of employees, and they've got siblings out there, saying those lads were fantastic. They were professionally dressed, they were able to talk, communicate, and the more we make these introductions, the better those guys will present at an interview, and we're hoping that they get their jobs of preference.
What challenges do those in the agricultural industry face?
Uncertainty. It's uncertainty of income, it's uncertainty of climate, it's uncertainty of what interest rates will do or what the banks will say, or if the ETS comes in, or whether the regional councils put on limits in terms of fertiliser, and the younger generations don't like uncertainty. So that's the big issue for recruitment.
The National Agricultural Field Days will be held at the Mystery Creek Event Centre from the 12th until the 15th of June. For more information, visit fielddays.co.nz. Up next, Hugh Verco. Welcome back. The Waikato Mayoral Forum has briefed a group of MPs and iwi representatives on proposals for a 3-year work programme. We chatted with Forum Chairman and Mayor of Matamata Piako, Hugh Verco, to explain the 3-year work programme.
Hugh, what is the Waikato Mayoral Forum's 3-year work programme?
Okay, the Waikato Mayoral Forum has been going about 12 months now, and what it was when the mayors came together from the whole of the Waikato region to decide how we can work collectively together, how we can get savings for our communities. So therefore what we've been looking at is how we deliver our services and what areas that we can save money in. If you like, the main areas that we believe we can save is on roading. There are enormous savings, like between $2 and $30 million of savings in roading. There's probably $10, $20 million savings in planning, and then we're looking at doing a spatial plan for the Waikato and looking at water and wastewater.
Why will the plan take 3 years?
Basically, it's 3 years that we've said it will be a minimum of how it will take, and that we have to really push it to get going in the 3 years. But if we are to develop all those work streams at the same time, which is what the forum has decided to do, then it's a matter of engaging consultants to help having staff that can buy into it and do the development properly. We hope to have the savings on board within 3 years.
So how do you plan to boost the regional economy in that?
We believe that the Waikato has operated individually in the past, that where Auckland is a central area and Wellington is a central area. The Waikato really hasn't had a strong voice from the Waikato Incorporated. You've had the Hamilton City, the 4th largest city in the country, and they've been saying what they would like. Waikato Regional Council will express an opinion, and then you've got all the territorial authorities individually. So it's a chance to say, hey, Waikato needs a common goal, a common vision and a common voice.
And how will that boost the regional economy?
What we're looking at is if you can identify the assets, and there are enormous assets throughout the whole of the Waikato and the great area there, and to promote that so that people looking at investing know what there is in the Waikato, how they can invest. We're looking at planning where we should develop freight hubs, i.e. the Tainui land by Hamilton, where things should happen and how we can help it happen.
So what are those areas that we can invest in the Waikato region?
There are a lot of areas that we can invest, and again, population studies would indicate that the population in the outlying territorials is going to reduce or age and possibly reduce. So it's a matter of looking at what is required in those areas. Sport Waikato has actually taken a lead, and they're looking at developing a regional facility strategy through the whole of the Waikato, i.e. do away with all the territorial council boundaries and say where should we have indoor regional facilities, where should we have swimming pools, artificial turf, for those sort of things. Where is it needed in the Greater Waikato?
Because in a news article you actually mentioned seek to progress regional prosperity through taking a Waikato Inc. approach. Is Waikato Inc. actually like a business organisation that you guys have?
It's just using that as a philosophy that says if we can run most of the stuff through the Mayoral Forum, it's got buy-in from all the councils there. So we're saying, hey, let's debate it within the forum meetings that we have as to how we go forward and come out with a united voice as to what the Waikato believes is the best way forward.
So how much is the 3-year work program expected to cost?
The work programme is looking at about $1.4 million. That is over the 3-year period, but that includes staff time. So if we're saying to Hamilton City, Matamata Piako, South Waikato or any of those councils, we need assistance from your staff and we want so many hours. David Hall, who was Chief Executive of South Waikato, he's now shifted to Waipa, but he was doing a lot of the lead work in the water and wastewater structure. So where councils contribute staff time on a considerable basis, that's part and parcel of the total cost.
So what is the Waikato plan?
The Waikato plan is another name for a spatial plan. If we say to the communities at large, we're going to develop a spatial plan, everyone will say, what's that? Auckland's got a spatial plan, and it looks like it's going to become mandatory from the government to say all regions have to develop a spatial plan. We're just calling it a Waikato plan because hopefully people will understand the Waikato plan more than the term a spatial plan.
So what part of that Waikato plan is related to this 3-year work program?
that's one of the work streams that we're looking at. We've got Langley Cave as the Chief Executive from Hauraki District. He's leading it. You've then got Hamilton City Mayor Julie Hardacre, Peter Buckley, the Chair of the Regional Council, and a couple of other mayors, Alan Livingston from Waipa, that are looking at that to how can we develop an overall plan of where we want to see the Waikato going.
And you mentioned roads, so you're wanting to spend less on roads?
No, it's not a matter of spending less on roads. We just believe that there are enormous savings. That it surprised us when we looked at how all the different councils managed their roads and their maintenance on them, and we believe that everybody did it the same way. And when we talked to all the councils, how do you do it? There's an enormous difference. There's a difference in how roads are classified within councils. There's a difference in how wide different councils want their roads. Some want white lines on the side for rural roads, some don't. And it's a matter of saying, hey fellas, can we not agree that there is a standard for, say, a collector road or a local road, or depending on the terminology, as to how we want to maintain these, so you don't suddenly have a totally different road because you cross a council boundary.
Yeah, it's funny. I would have expected that would have been, you know, one of those NZTA things that you'd have to do all over the country. We
thought it would have been too, but again, each individual council put their program to NZTA, and NZTA said, yeah, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Whereas now we're saying, hey, we can do it a lot better than this.
Up next, employment growth in the Bay. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. According to the Regional Activity Report, the Bay of Plenty has experienced high employment growth in the past 10 years. Hilary Entwistle spoke with Economic Development Agency Priority One's Andrew Coker to find out what has led to this positive change.
According to the Regional Activity Report, the Bay of Plenty has experienced high employment growth in the past 10 years. What do you think has led to that positive?
First thing you've got to bear in mind is that the report covers the entire Bay of Plenty, so it's not just Western Bay of Plenty, which is the area that Priority One, for instance, is responsible for, which extends from Waihi Beach to Otamarikau. In terms of employment growth, in this particular part of the region, strong population growth, of course, drives employment growth, but also we've seen strong growth in industries related to the port and, of course, to our primary sector. That may have stabilised in the kiwifruit industry in the last couple of years, but still, over the last few years, we've seen really strong growth in employment numbers.
Our average income is still lagging behind, though. Why is that?
Well, there's a number of factors for that, and of course I flagged the primary sector, so they tend to be in the orchard worker kind of area, the lower income, but also a high retirement demographic here, so a lot on fixed incomes, and that tends to skew the figures disproportionately, if you like.
Are we still $10 tauranga?
Not at all. If you talk to our key industry sectors here, the freight and logistics, the IT sector, specialised manufacturing, health, they don't get away with paying below industry rates. So we have to compete against other cities and regions, and of course those sectors pay accordingly and increasingly.
We still have high unemployment rate compared to the rest of the country. What is leading to that?
Again, you've got to bear in mind that the report covers the entire Bay of Plenty, so there is differences between, say, Western Bay of Plenty and the East, where they really do struggle with some employment issues over there. But of course, we've had the PSA issue here, which has seen de-sizing in the kiwifruit sector, although initiatives such as the overgrafting of the new varieties drove employment for a while there. But we'll see, once the industry picks up again with the new varieties, which are even more productive than the gold variety, there'll be a huge demand for people. Having said that, industry's investing in capital in robotics and technology-based equipment. So, as happens with industries as they mature, you'll see a reduction in lower skilled jobs and an increase in higher skilled employment.
Is there any chance of us improving that unemployment rate in the near future?
Well, again, bearing in mind we're talking Wider Bay of Plenty and the Western Bay of Plenty, we're seeing quite a shift in terms of high growth businesses here, and that's one thing the report highlighted was that the Western Bay of Plenty has a high number of high growth businesses versus other regions. And it's those areas where we're really pinning our hopes. So, for instance, specialised manufacturing around the titanium initiative that's here, and a number of other sectors, freight and logistics. IT in particular is growing rapidly here. And so you're seeing a shift in terms of the nature of employment and certainly a move up the skills levels, if you like.
What is high growth business?
Well, businesses, for instance, like the IT sector, where I can give you a couple of examples here where we've had, sole operator businesses have relocated here from, say, Auckland or from London, and then grown to employ 5 to 10 people in their businesses in software development, for instance. So they grow rapidly and really require those high levels of skills for which they pay, high pay rates.
What are our biggest industries for employment in the Western Bay of Plenty?
Well, still horticulture's really our backbone. It's been 20% of our GDP. Equally tourism, which is 14%, so a significant player in the industry. Forestry and health, of course, transport and logistics, and increasingly specialised manufacturing, as I've mentioned, a number of businesses, export-focused manufacturers.
What does the report say about the port?
Well, the port's, it just tells the obvious, really. The port is such a vital piece of infrastructure here and adds, there's 30% of our nation's exports transit through the Port of Tauranga, so it's just so important, not just to the Western Bay of Plenty, but the wider North Island. And so it's really important to us. It creates a huge amount of employment and is just set to grow, from success to success in the future.
Do you think that the port props up the rest of the Bay of Plenty economy, especially after the PSA situation?
It's certainly a major contributor to our economy here, and in the case of Priority One, we work to retain but also attract businesses and investment here. And a lot of the businesses, and one as recent as yesterday that was in the media, has moved here from Australia to be close to an efficient port and chose Tauranga because of the port. So we'll see more and more of that. And there's a lot of inquiries at the moment from businesses wanting to be based here because of the port's proximity and the access to the port through our roadways.
What does the report say about the tourism industry?
I can't speak too much in depth of tourism because that's not an area of focus for us. We have a regional tourism operation here. It's actually quite silent on tourism because the nature of the statistics, but we know as a region that it's an important sector to us. It's 14% of our GDP and about 600 million in terms of revenue into the economy, so it's hugely important.
It has been said that there's poor education between 25 and 34-year-olds contributes to the low income in the Bay. Why do we have poor education in this age range?
That's quite a long story, but what we have seen in the past is our young people leaving here to gain education qualifications, and those that stay tend to work in those key sectors such as primary. A real drive for us as a region is to grow our tertiary and training capability, and within 5 years we'll be a university city with a strong and growing tertiary provision here.
To find out more information on Priority One, visit priority1.co.nz. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video or photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. Hilary will be back tomorrow with more guests from in and around the region. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a wonderful evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.